Hello everybody and welcome back to our latest week here of the Quake Pro League. My name's Ketchup, joined by Lethal. Series number 2, just about to kickstart. Excuse me, it's going to be Sirius versus Av3k. And, I mean, let's start talking about it, right? Harry, what do you think?
A difficult one, mate. I think it will come to the picks and bans as well. Sirius has been performing extremely well, hasn't he? We know he's a bit of a name star himself, but how he's able to control the tempo of the matchup, slow things down to his pace and how he wants to execute his strategies behind the ball. He's also been grinding extremely hard as well. And we've definitely seen the effects of it. As, of course, you know, now going up and up towards the leaderboard. He's had some very hard matchups, but he's been performing extremely well overall. I do believe he's now going 4-1, and he's currently 7th as well. And as you can see, some interesting wins in itself. You can see, of course, probably the most notable ones there is defeating Nosfer and Maxter 2-1. We know at the very beginning that Drummer did manage to take Sirius down 3-0, and then previously beating Kron 3-0 as well. So in terms of results, he should be extremely happy and proud of himself with what he's been able to achieve so far in terms of map wins, the series wins as well. But against Av3k, it's going to be extremely tough to call because, of course, Av3k with that huge amount of dueling and veteran experience as well. And in terms of mental games, he's very strong in that department as well. Not really someone who normally tilts that often and can be extremely strategic and methodical, and, of course, can have great aim skill to complement things further as well. So it's going to be a tough matchup for Av3k. I'm sure he probably knows that as well. And also, I think it is his birthday today. I'm not 100% sure because it was funny. A few people tweeted out that it was his birthday today, and I think to confirm that, I had to literally have a look around and make sure it wasn't an April Fool's joke. But it is.
Yeah, but mate, I'm going to say
last year as well for his birthday.
Last year, every single show I had, people were wishing me a happy birthday. Or I don't know, it might even have been 2 years ago. I can't remember. My prospect of time is lost into the void. But if it is, you know, happy birthday. If not, then the Quake scene striketh again. However, with it looks like Av3k, one of the big things to see in the results, Av3k has played more matches here in Pro League so far. Sirius has played, you know, a decent chunk, and he has been tested already. You know, make no mistake, everyone in Pro League here, they're here for a reason, so they give it that 110%. With this kind of matchup though, Av3k is a unique case, truly unique, because you have a player that's been around for ages, has a distinct style, and going up against someone like Sirius, yeah, both these players have been playing for a long time, you know, very long time. But in regards to Pro League, Av3k's been around longer, significantly longer. So there's an element of, is that going to matter? Is it not? Because, you know, there's a unique player, and then there's someone like Sirius who, I think if you look up the dictionary term for good aim, it's just a big picture of Sirius's face. So there's definitely that to factor in. We'll have a look at the picks and bans, because you said earlier just now that, you know, you think that the picks and bans could have a bit of bearing here. Now, Ruins to start off, taking Slash out of the equation instantly, which also means that, you know, there was no opportunity to see Slash in like the Molten Falls or something like that. So the Battle of Lights for Ruins, very different affair to what we just saw with Maxter and Toxic. Corrupted Keep afterwards, I mean, we've seen that match over and over again. It's so combat heavy, with the only crouch slider left in the rotation picked up by Sirius, and then Ranger for Av3k, which makes absolutely no surprises there. Helps you be aggressive, helps you put in those sort of big plays on Corrupted Keep, where you're either going to get damage or you're going to be able to take multiple items. And then Molten Falls at the end, where Av3k going for a little bit more heals in the ground. You know, we're going to have access to this totem if we want. We can use them in a fight. Versus Sirius, who, you know, we know this guy is all about the execution, right? So we've got 3 champions that somewhat test that. Nyx, in her own way, can have some rather creative wall jumps, but it's mostly in the Strog and it's mostly in the Athena. Plus taking away the visor, you know, take that visor away from Av3k, I think you're in a pretty good position anyway. So interesting set of picks and bans, if you ask me.
Yeah, it really is. I think for Sirius, though, he'll be happy with the first map pick on Ruins. He is very strong on that map, and he's banned the Slash straight away, and it's going to be an Anarchy versus the Nyx matchup. So we're going to be seeing a different style of play in terms of speed compared to what we're normally used to with the Anarchy versus the Slash matchup, and I love that from Av3k as well. The BJ ban, extremely important. We know how efficient Sirius can be with the BJ, and also Av3k's thought about this far ahead as well. He also knows that Sirius has also used the BJ a couple of times on Molten Falls. So making sure to either ban it outright and cup to keep, or make sure he's refrained from using it going into Molten Falls. Sirius has banned the visor going into Molten, and I'll be honest with you, I've not really seen Sirius use Athena overall, not just the Molten Falls, but I've not really seen him use Athena that much in general. So, of course, he's going to be using that Athena to try and catch his opponent, or maybe trying to get away from his opponent, of course, with the mobility that Athena has in her back pocket. But it's going to be extremely tough to call it. I think it will come down to that last map. How it's going to go is going to be depending on how Av3k wants to try and pursue this. We know how good Sirius has been so far in the season, how much he's been grinding Quake champions overall. And for Av3k, he knows that it's going to be a strong road for him in this series, but in terms of predictions, it's extremely tough. I think it will go 2-1, but honestly, throwing out a name, it's anyone's guess at this point.
I'm just expecting a fantastic series, and I have no doubt that we're going to get one, because these are two players that are so distinct in the community that when you have two players like that clashing heads in a competitive setting, it always spells for an exciting matchup, right? So both players have officially readied up. We are now loading into Ruins of Sarnath, our first series with these two players, and only our second series of the day. You know, for those that might have just joined us, we said this at the start of the show, and I think we're going to continue to mention it. This is a really, really, really good day for matches, because there are so many fantastic matchups, just one after the other, after the other, after the other, that this is just simply one of many. So feast your eyes on it, sit down, get comfortable, and enjoy the next three maps they're about to see, because this warm-up is now coming to a close. The Battle of Lights here on Ruins of Sarnath. Sirius and Av3k head-to-head. I'm going to be checking out things from Sirius's point of view, because I just want to see what he does at the start, man. Such an interesting case.
You're not wrong. I'm gonna switch to Av3k though, so we can keep tabs on both the lads here to see exactly what they're going to get up to at the very beginning. And of course, we know that most of chat at home and all of us here, we are used to being catered to the Anarchy versus the Slash matchup, but the fact we're going to have the Knicks, it's we'll have to see exactly how and when Sirius chooses to engage. We know he likes to use the aggressive side of that Ghost Walk. Of course, it's going to be well of that as well. Going through, but it gets the direct after tanking those two back-to-back res. Has got that inject. If he does want to engage, just a matter of how he wants to go about this here. He's going to be pushing on forward. Managed to pick up the heavy. Of course, Mega is still going to be up. And looks like Av3k won't make it in time, but can engage this, of course. Great stuff from Av3k. Well played from him. Good strategic and aggressive values there to get this early lead a minute in.
That one defensive rocket really changed how that first engagement was going to go down. You know, Sirius kind of opting to turn around and see if he was still there. By doing so, that rocket just came out and hit him right in the face. And just like that, Sirius did do everything he could. The moment he realized that his opponent was point blank and he himself was at death's door, that super shotgun doing as much as it possibly could. Sirius, defensive play, two fantastic rails. And is the LG going to finish the job? Yes, it will. And you never get used to seeing it. The second Sirius has an LG in hand. It's an entirely different beast. And it's no doubt something that opponents have to factor in every time they go up against him. It's one element of just understanding Quake and knowing how to play the game, but at this level of play, so many players approach the game in a different way, and they have different strengths and weaknesses that with someone like Sirius, surely that LG has just got to be something that is on the forefront of your mind at every engagement. How intimidating must it be, I wonder?
And this is why I'm also glad for Av3k banned the BJ pick as well, because it's
just one LG, anyone, please. Just one.
Exactly. Like grab to keep a Molten Falls. We've seen the BJ used like time and time again. Of course, we know the Sirius has been known for using the BJ pick a couple of times in Molten Falls in the past. But yeah, it's Av3k's done himself a massive favor getting rid of that. And of course, a bit of his common sense at this stage as well. Now that we know a little bit about Sirius's champ picks and what he likes to play with and his likes and dislikes of them as well on each map. Mr. Mega has been delayed a fair amount.
Oh, massive amount. And in doing so, Sirius is trying to get that damage first. It's a good call.
No, absolutely. And he's still continue to delay this further. And but now he's made it so he's still got enough time to pick up this heavy first and then contest the Mega straight afterwards, which is, of course, going to be his game plan. So Av3k's not going to really be too sure of when it's going to be. He's still in that courtyard waiting for Sirius to push on forward. But at least he will get the timing of his heavy here. He's not going to go for it. He's going to get ready for this Mega, and we're going to see how much this is going to affect Av3k.
Tell you what, though, I know we were looking at that from Sirius's point of view, but Av3k was pretty far away from Mega when it got picked up. So the question is, did he even hear it? With how much Sirius delayed that, is he now looking to spring some kind of trap, or is Av3k going to be doing the safe thing, which it seems like he very much is, which is to just not make his presence known? Starting to push out already. Sirius, the more patient player here, hits that rail right as Av3k goes through. But Av3k, I mean, surely the idea there would have been, if we take a rail on the way or something, at least we're on heavy first. Remember, this is the battle of the light champions. Even a single rail can mean the world of difference, and both players are more than aware of that. So if whoever controls the armor in a matchup like this has such a significant advantage over the other. And now, Av3k, who has slowed things down to an absolute snail's pace, has been able to give himself a bit of a one-up here, given himself map control. The trap is sprung by Sirius, but due to the stack difference, was just unable to get anything from that fight whatsoever. And that, oh God! Oh God! No opening damage there, just a super shotgun, make that 2. Oh no, that last one, I felt that in my bones, man. That was just out of nowhere, boom, thank you, goodbye. And no, not again, Sirius, no! Caught in a weird situation, 3 times in a row, and God, it was such a slow start, and it was so hard to call who had the advantage. I feel like I've blinked and 3 frags have now gone down, Harry.
Oh no, it's just been constant, isn't it, so far? And as Av3k has picked up the heavy, Mega's now got for another 20 seconds, of course. They're approaching this halfway stage. I think that last rail, Sirius looking to see if he can make something of this, maybe even trap Av3k into the courtyard. You can see he's egging himself on to try and do it, but hits the first rail, uses the inject, but Sirius comes out because of course he is still railable. Light able to pick up in hand, Mega is up, and he's going to be, of course, gunning straight forward. Won't have time to contest the heavy, as Av3k is going to be prioritizing that straight away, and he's going to realise now that it has been picked up, hits the first rail, which is going to be extremely important to keep these stacks as equal as possible, but it's actually caught him with his trousers down here. He's going to be using Ghost Walk, but isn't going to be going to try and add another rail shot to his connection. But has backed away, has to be catches him with his back turned here, and the inject is going to save Av3k's bacon, and is going to try and go for this Mega, which he will be able to, and hits it with a shotgun, but of course wasn't able to grab it due to how weak he was.
An aggressive push being made by Av3k, who gets a rather favourable spawn, it has to be said. And he's able to undo that work that Sirius just put in. Now, there's definitely time left to make magic happen. Only 3 frags, and there's 4 minutes left on the clock. Again, the damage that both of these champions simply cannot take does open up an opportunity for a comeback on either side here. Sirius, a bit unfortunate there, as you know, Av3k did spawn so close by, but the steal on the item, and now the chase begins maybe on the next one. Av3k was being nice and cautious there and did the right thing, just on the off chance his opponent did stay up top, which in this case he did. The rails not hitting their mark here, the high risk, high reward nature of the rail. And unfortunately, oh God, 1 good rocket near the teleporter and the second near the health, because he just knew that's where he was going to go to try and heal up, and Sirius now forced away. Av3k looking dominant, the rail's going to seal it. And what once was an extremely possible comeback is now being snuffed out as Av3k secures another frag on the board and is looking to just continue this lead. This has gone from 0 to 100 rather quickly, I think.
Yeah, things have escalated really quickly here. 3 minutes left, 6 frags to try and claw back from for Sirius, but at this point it's going to be should be difficult for him, as Av3k is just over time in this map just warming up more and more and is able to kind of ease himself into this series. Good first map from him as well, and just a lot of strategical prowess coming up from Av3k, and good reads coming out here, just making the right predictions on where he's going to come from some of these jumps. Good rails coming out again from Av3k, just adding another to his tally. 11 to 3. Ghostwalk having to be popped. Might not be able to get the heavy, but as we said, Ryan, the damage has already been done, making it 12 to 3. A stellar start coming out from Av3k.
Sirius, unfortunately, not quite able to take this first map here, but moments of promise. It's just that Av3k, the moment those initial frags land, it's the pressure he's able to apply fresh off the spawn. There were at least, I think, 3 separate instances there where Sirius, he spawns, he picks up an item, the moment he's done it, Av3k is all over him. And that's an element of Av3k that is just so famous at this point. It is that well-placed Av3k aggression that when it's time to make stuff happen, he will. And that's going to bring us to a first map here that is now dominantly on the side of Av3k, but for a huge amount of that first map was too close to call. And I think that's the important thing to take away from this, that yeah, once the control was locked in and Av3k was the one in charge, before that happened, things were looking nice and competitive. And there's 2 maps left to go after this. There's always an opportunity for this to turn around. However, if you're in the part of Av3k, or you're an Av3k fan, you're probably feeling pretty good about this first map.
Absolutely. This wasn't really the scoreline I expected, especially with these 2 champion picks, and Av3k should be extremely proud of himself with what he was able to achieve in this map. It was looking very dicey at the beginning. He was able to get a nice, good early lead as well, and then was able to get continuous frags back and forth on the spawn. Of course, as you mentioned before, with these light champions and their starting stacks, extremely difficult once your opponent's got all the weapons in their arsenal, and Sirius is just going to have to go back to the drawing board now and decide how he's going to go about in this next matchup, because of course the next map will be on Corrupted Keep straight afterwards. Have to see what he can do here, and it's the reason why Av3k's going to be so confident as well is just due to the fact that for Sirius, this is one of his strongest maps. He is very good on ruins, and Av3k being able to take it by such a large margin, Av3k's going to be pretty confident going to the next couple of maps here. But you can see, yeah, mathematically impossible. 15 seconds left, and just looking to finish up on this first map here, Ryan. But yeah, Sirius, a lot of things we could talk about here. He still had great aim skill across the board, but the problem is a lot of times Av3k just making it uncomfortable and able to push at the right times when that Ghost Walk was used.
The pressure was a rather monumental part of that map. And like I said, the start of the map was pretty even, and it was nice and careful too. It's just that once Av3k locked in a position where, right, I'm now the one that's in charge. I mean, looking at the end of the items, the big takeaway actually from the final stats here was 11 heavies for Av3k and then 6 Sirius. And with a matchup like this, just not having as much access to large armor, it makes a pretty big difference. Because from the damage department, Sirius was completely fine. He actually did more damage to Av3k than vice versa. And it's very rare that you see that, especially when champions of the same stack level go up against each other. You rarely see someone get more damage than someone but lose by as many frags as Av3k was able to secure there. But I think the 3 maps that we have, they're very, very, very different from each other. So the question is, and with how important the start will no doubt be for all 3 of them, how is Corrupted Keep going to go? Because the rail was a huge, huge, huge part there for Sirius. And I looked at his stats, and even after I think he missed about 2 rails in a row or something, I think that can sometimes tank those stats. He was still sitting on like 50% rail. And even now, at the end of the game, you can see it there, 50% and a respectable amount of damage dealt. Damage can often only be one part of the match, though. And I think that was a clear demonstration of that, perhaps. And Av3k looking real comfortable. But with this second map, the ban, the removal of the BJ, that could be a pretty big deal here, because you're going up against now a matchup that everyone's more than familiar with. Yeah, you see Ranger all the time, you see Strog all the time. Av3k, well seasoned at this point. How's it going to go, you reckon, Harry?
It's going to be a tough call. We've seen Sirius play extremely well on Corrupted Keep, and yeah, we mentioned earlier that the BJ is a massive, massive ban for Av3k. The fact that Sirius uses him preemptively on both Corrupted Keep and Molten, that's just one big worry not to go through here. And as you said, the Ranger versus Strog pick, pretty standard here going into it. Obviously, you do see your Galena or random Eisen come up into it now and again. But with these picks, I'm not too sure how this is going to go. This is where I kind of feel like whoever's going to take the first map. Or I actually thought Sirius was going to take the first one, and of course, Av3k's going to take this one. But now it could be the complete opposite end of the spectrum here going forward. But for the accuracy, what we've seen from Sirius, it's going to be keeping him in this matchup, of course, as still running in the 50s. I don't remember last time I've seen Sirius's LG below the 50, or at least below the 40s barrier anyway. So this is something Av3k is going to have to be very mindful of, just to try and keep his distance, use that heavy machine gun, make Sirius feel as uncomfortable and as awkward as possible to not be able to abuse that aim skill. But what we saw from that first map is just a wealth of knowledge and experience that Av3k has had in this game, and of course in Quake in general across the board here with his dueling experience, and it really has shown here. But we'll see how Sirius is going to do in the second map to see if he can try and change things up a little bit. But I think we may be getting into a restart here, Ryan.
I didn't want to sort of throw you off there, but yeah, the second we joined back in, we've had to go back to lobby. Not sure what the reason is, but I imagine it will be a quick little fix. Because what I was going to say was these players, they were raring to go, because we had the loading, the map was finished, we saw the stats, and then the moment we loaded back into the lobby, both players readied up, and we went boom, straight back in again. And I was like, man, oh, they're ready, and then straight back to lobby. I don't know what's going on. I'm so confused right now. So I will check the lobby chat and see if we can find out.
We're about to start now anyway, so I think a little bit of a hiccup, but it's all right. We're not going to be waiting 5 minutes or anything like that. We're going to get straight into it.
Again. They're readied up again. We're going back in. We're going back in. We'll just pretend this didn't happen. I'm going to go whoosh straight back into Corrupted Keep. Now, one thing I actually didn't mention about that last map, and that you'd feel that there might be an element of knowing your opponent there, was range. I feel it felt so heavily like Av3k was just not interested in taking those kind of medium range engagements unless it was completely in his favor to do so, because you know you're going up against someone that can hit LG, forcing Sirius to go into a rail situation where, as long as you're hitting rails yourself of a similar quantity when it counts, that's the big thing, is hitting the rails when it counts. Someone can hit 1 million rails, but if that rail doesn't result in a kill or a frag, that's a very different story, right? So that was an interesting element to watch Av3k, to watch Sirius have to almost constantly chase Av3k around the map and try and keep up with him, because he wasn't interested in being anywhere other than rail distance. Naturally, this map is going to force it to be very, very different. So now we're checking things out from Av3k's point of view again. And we'll see how things kickstart here. Good spawn. Av3k not interested immediately in sort of gunning it straight for the super shotgun, actually. I think the tri-bolt more important to the game plan, perhaps. It's not very common that someone kind of leaves that shotgun out in the open fresh off that spawn. So I'm curious to see what Av3k's plan will be.
Yeah, you're not wrong here. I think he realises that he's going to have to deal with the heavy machine gun and the rocket straight away, so he might as well just play the range game a little bit, and then he can pick up the shotgun afterwards if he wants to, which looks like he's going to be planning to do once he picks up this heavy.
40-second shotgun pickup? That's unseen. That's absurd.
That's something you normally see every day. Is he comes straight in?
Oh, that
does
doesn't
get
work.
a huge amount of damage in, but of course, Sirius, look at the stack differential here, Ryan.
Yeah, that was just, for lack of a better term, a push that did not work. However, an aggressive Sirius is now pushing in. Av3k's doing as much damage as he possibly can right before he inevitably goes down. And it has been enough, because, Sirius stuck in that room. Av3k had already just picked up all of the lights. The defensive rockets are pretty good, but putting in so much confidence with just a regular machine gun. The absolute stones on this man to do that. And it worked. 1-1 now. And a chance for Av3k to get not only the LG, but now a rocket in hand. And an important item too, that. Another instance where you'd think that's something that Sirius can really begin. The teleport through the Pika, nullifying it completely. Took a bit of damage in the process, but it looks like we've simply traded it off. LG versus LG, Sirius, not enough to finish the job now. 2-1. This is the Corrupted Keep I wanted to see.
Yeah, Sirius kind of had to push that. He knew that at some stage a Mega was going to come up and it's going to be a guaranteed frag for Av3k, so he didn't really too much of a decision to make here, but Av3k looking extremely good with this LG, putting him into that red room as he was trying to circle around. Av3k still continuing to put so much damage here across the board. Already 4-1. Don't think the lights up as of yet, but it's going to, of course, go for the Mega straight away. As Sirius is trying to contest it early, does pick it up, does grab it, but it took a lot of damage in the process. No light for him to pick up, but he will be there in time for the heavy. So this is going to be an opportunity for Sirius to try and claw his way back as he's trying to get a decent rocket. But look at the damage. Looks like Av3k must be on like 1 HP or something.
Oh, he is. I'm watching it. He was on 1 HP. And that rocket absolutely just flew past his head. And Av3k, that defensive shot near the light armor almost hit him. But, it's good for Av3k in this case that it did not. But a Mega in play. Av3k, this is going to be maybe an opportunity. Nah, not quite. Yeah, had strong indication there that Av3k was going to wait for it to get picked up and then obviously try and see if he can mount an escape. But actually, dying there was not that bad for Av3k, because what it had allowed him to do is now pick up that heavy. And it is, in fact, now Sirius who's the one on the back foot. There's a little bit of stuff there to recuperate, try and get a bit of stack back, but yeah, Av3k went down, but spawning right near that heavy and taking full advantage of that situation. That was a perfect opportunity for him, and he's still in the lead. The LG 1v1, again, Sirius, not able to win that fight. Not even close, as Av3k was super healthy. Has an LG as well. Doesn't get as much damage from the orb as maybe he wanted, but it doesn't matter. The only thing is the frag took a little bit longer to obtain, so Av3k took a bit more damage. Who cares at this point, though, because now Sirius pushing forward, aggressive rockets, but even while knocked in the air, that LG for Av3k is just looking so sublime.
Oh, it certainly is, and he's still continuation with his damage. Sirius comes out in that little scuffle around heavy. So 4 minutes in, we've already had 11 frags total, and it's going back and forth. Av3k comes up with the orb, 14 HP. As Sirius, he could get the trade here. He knows it. Looking to try and get the trade. Will he be able to? Yes, he does. A little bit longer than expected, but was able to in the end. Mega up in 2. Heavy's looking to be in Sirius' favour. If he doesn't stay alive, Ryan, he picks up the Mega, and now he can just try and trolley along towards the Heavy if he could contest it in time. But it looks like Sirius, he's looking to try and rocket him back and keep him pinned in that red room. Very back and forth, dearie me.
I mean, it wasn't the worst situation in the world for Sirius. You know, spawning near Rocket, the Rocket naturally is going to make it scarier for Av3k to push forward there. It's not going to be enough to secure the frag, unfortunately, and now Av3k, I would say, in a good position for this Mega. Pretty weak, and Sirius aware of that. A push, an attempt to steal the Mega, if he was able to do that, that would have been much better off. But this is an absolute all-out brawl that we're seeing right now. And Sirius, seeing an opponent with just a starting machine gun with an LG in his hand, he's licking his lips. He's ready to collect, and now only needs 3 frags to bring things back to even. Can it be done, though? 5 minutes, lots of time. Sirius keeping that pressure on thick. And so much damage, but again, for another time, Av3k winning by just the smallest bit. 1 cell of LG would have decided it. And that's not the first time that's happened.
No, it's not. And look at the art of control. 10 for Av3k, 11 for Sirius. I'm sure people are interested in the LG accuracy, but nothing too much to talk about. 38 for Av3k and 43 for Sirius.
There's just been so much of it getting fired. Some of it's going to miss, right? Surely.
That's kind of how I've been seeing it.
But with the rockets, again, it gives Sirius an opportunity to get some damage, but not enough to make Av3k shy away from just taking this Mega. He knows, I can pick this up, I can orb in, I can fight, now I'm going to be healthier. It doesn't matter how much damage I've taken. Now with the Pika, has that given Sirius enough? Sirius does take away the heavy, Av3k weak. A bit more damage dealt and make that even more. Sirius secures another frag on the board. The next objective, no doubt going to be this Mega. Av3k only having an LG or an SSG in hand. Sirius now on the Mega. Surely he pushes on to try and make this. But Av3k, he's springing the trap! And he gets as much damage as possible. That was as much as he was going to get in that situation. Av3k spawning near the heavy. Oh, that's not the first time. He gets a really good spawn.
Yeah, and so the only thing Sirius could do now is just deny him of the weapons. He's given him the LG, but he hasn't got the rockets or anything like that. So, but he's coming in with the orb to try and put a stop to it. Av3k perfectly timed. He's known or realised that Sirius has used that Pika 3 or 4 times around that same angle in that same area, and Av3k is just adapting to it and making these reads, and he just knows that at some point Sirius is probably going to use that Pika around that same area once again. So again, good adaptation coming up from Av3k. Pick up the heavy again. I think that may have sealed it here, Ryan.
It's just part of the matchup knowledge, isn't it? Is displaying fearlessness when you need to. In those situations, yeah, the Pika can be really intimidating, but if you have Ranger, I mean, this matchup has been so good for Av3k. The Orb has done so much heavy lifting on top of what he's already putting on here. That Sirius, any opportunities he would have to bring things back and to get even some kind of resemblance of an upper hand is just being stolen away every time. And even then, Av3k so close to death countless times, yet he pulls the frag off. And even that direct, oh God, 2 directs. Never mind, make that 2. Oh God, what a display from Av3k so far. Fantastic performance. And there's still 1 map left to go. Oh, hello, it's me again, we trade it. And Av3k getting the rocket spawn. Light armor just for good measure. Even the hourglasses to get the orb back faster. But at this point, it is a done deal. Oh, come on, man! Cut it out.
Deary me, I think Sirius has definitely consumed quite a bit of a bruising here towards the last few minutes of this matchup here, and as Av3k's just getting really carried away with the amount of damage display he's having put across the board so far. But yeah, it's just the adaptation of what Av3k's been able to do with the orb, just adding more flair and style points onto the server. Another direct again. And yeah, this is Av3k needs to just calm down with another direct again. Minute left remaining. This needs to stop. I can't watch anymore.
This is like, in the span of about a minute, I think he's hit like 5 or 6 of these directs.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
But obviously, you know, both players sort of slowing down a bit now. I mean, there's not really much else that can be done, right? This map is done with Av3k taking another victory here. But what a high-scored game this has been. 23-13. And there's 30 seconds left to maybe get even more of that. But I think another 100 damage. Another 100 damage. Just like that. I'm in awe. I'm genuinely in awe of these rockets that Av3k has just pulled out of nowhere in these closing few minutes. And all that's going to do is just get yourself nice and warmed up, as our final destination with these two will be the Molten Falls. A very different matchup, though. You know, different weight classes, if you will. It's one medium and 1 light, if I remember correctly. But wow. If you wanted to have a absolute picture-perfect demonstration of Ranger played at the highest level, that had to have been one of those maps, because not only was the rocket far and above, I think, the star weapon of Av3k in that map, but the combination of how he used the orb. That orb was never used defensively, it was never used to reposition, it was used to kill. It was used every step of the way to get frags. And also, deny any kind of advantage. The damage he was doing, either before he was about to get fragged himself, or somehow pulling a frag out of nowhere when he was so close to going down himself. There's an element, surely, that has to be kind of frustrating if you're in the shoes of Sirius. I mean, how many times can you get someone weak with them to just live with, I don't know, just nothing. There's no other words I can use. I'm trying to get that mental thesaurus. Man had like nothing left and still pulled out a frag. That's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, I think the turning point for me, in my opinion, was, of course, the orb is very effective once they're using that Pigger, only if you know
6.6
where you're.
thousand damage.
Oh my God, I didn't even realise until it's still, actually, to be fair, both of them, it's only just under 500 between the two. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, the orb could be very effective, especially if you know where your opponent is going to be or where he is with that Pika. Of course, it took Av3k a few minutes, just like it would do for any player, to kind of study Sirius during that matchup and to find out how and when, and mainly where he does use that Pika quite commonly. But he noticed that 2 or 3 times he used it around the same angle, just outside top mid of that mega area, and would basically preemptively use it every single time. And I think the 3rd or 4th time Sirius used it, Av3k just went, right, do you know what? I think now's the best time to use the orb to try and catch him whilst he's kneeling using that Pika, and then he can basically take full advantage and get a huge amount of damage distributed whilst, of course, Sirius is using that Pika, come out, and then, of course, he has to try and continue that engagement midway whilst he's been kneeling. But yeah, Av3k studied that really well, adapted accordingly, and read him quite well. And he had good aim skill once again to kind of complement that. And as you can see, yeah, the damage of the LG from both players is mad. 20 items for Av3k, and for Sirius it was going to be 16s. But Av3k's just doing what needs to be done, of course, just adapting well and just making Sirius feel a little bit uncomfortable in a lot of those situations. But he's been playing flawless across the series.
Even down to the defensive play too. In these instances where, you know, there are many elements of good defensive play, but with Av3k hitting as much damage as he was doing, whether it was enough to save his skin, or in other instances which I think simply added to the problems that Sirius was facing on Keep is that even if there were instances where he secured a frag in a close exchange, Av3k had just done so much damage to him that where do you go from there? Because now Sirius is, yeah, he got the frag, but now he's behind because your opponent simply just needs to pick up one weapon, especially with an orb in hand, and they're immediately a threat again, whether it comes down to getting a hold of an LG, in the instances that Av3k was able to spawn right next to the heavy, so not only has he been able to do damage to Sirius, but he spawns right next to a heavy, which now means your opponent can't instantly get armor back, armor that they're going to need in the next fight, which is going to happen very quickly because it's a small map and you've just picked up one of the only guns you need and you've got orb. I mean, it was just the perfect marriage of situations for Av3k, situations that he took full advantage of. And we're now going into the final map between these two. Molten Falls returns to play, and it's the difference between maybe Athena and Galena. We've been looking at how confident Av3k has really put forward throughout this series. The champion dynamic could change things, it could not, because we're going to have pure mobility for Sirius, absolute pure mobility. The only problem is that's all he's going to get. And now you're going up against someone who has not shied away from hitting ridiculous shots of his own. I mean, just look at that last 2 minutes of a highlight reel with just the rockets he was able to land on Crep Keep. He's going to have more stack than you, and he's going to have access to health more often than you are, and you have significantly less health. So, I mean, it kind of has to start well, right, for Sirius? I mean, if he has a bad start here and Av3k's able to start playing a lot more positionally with control, it's just, that's a situation that I'm sure no one would want to deal with. But as we begin, let's see how it unfolds here.
Yeah, it won't be not too shabby for Av3k so far. This is a nice birthday series win, I think, for Av3k here. But making it 3-0 series win will just make it that just a little bit more better here, Ryan. He's just going to try and dodge that last rail. Of course, he's going to get that second totem up pretty damn early, but the rails are coming out here for Sirius. But of course, him picking up the heavies have to do. There's probably a couple more, but Mega is still up. As Sirius is just looking to try and do some extra damage.
Can we talk about how brave Av3k is being here? Hasn't had a rail since the map began, knows that Sirius is constantly taking advantage of that fact, and having enough in the tank to go, you know what? I'm going to push forward. I have a totem in my pocket. I can drop it if I need to. I'm getting that rail, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. That's the side of Av3k that so many people love to watch. That's now a minute down. But with the weapons locked and loaded at long last, this is where Av3k can begin to party. The cycle of the items, massive delay between the two of them. Mega will be that next objective. But with the delay the way it is, Sirius sitting around waiting for a light armor to spawn because it's all he can get access to, but he's not going to be able to make his presence known on that heavy. It's far too risky. And now Sirius will have to play that information game as Av3k flies around this map, picking up what he wants when he wants. It's now going to be up to Sirius to put a stop to it. Av3k, ready for that tri-bolt. I think he saw that tri-bolt coming long before that shot was even fired. Must be thinking, my opponent, I haven't found them for a while. They're clearly playing defensive, and if that's the case, that's probably the angle they're looking at. Now, one frag down, Av3k taking the lead.
Yeah, beautiful stuff there from Av3k as well, just keeping that last totem to continue with the overstack. Heavy's gonna be up though. We need to try and take him down now, but sadly he's not able to. Sirius, of course, around that rocket in hand, but has got the rail, and we know how difficult it is, Ryan, for those vertical angles to make it work for yourself against your opponent, especially around that angle. Especially, it's really pretty tough. Mega's up, but Sirius is still looking to try and secure that first frag. Instead, was looking to prioritize it for a while, but has decided to back away. And yeah, go back to what you were saying. It was quite funny because I kind of felt like Av3k was just like acting as a role of the T1000 for the first 45 seconds, just constantly plus forward and not really. It wasn't even like a quick approach either. It was just super slow, and you could have felt like it was just a continued path there. But Sirius obviously did back away in the end. Av3k still got this overstack. Hasn't got any armor to his name, but speaking of the devil, heavy armor is coming up, and a couple of totems have been found. He's waiting for him to go through that TP. It finds him. Hasn't got the stack here. It's still just got a couple more seconds to claw this heavy up, and he's able to get it here, Ryan. Great stuff here from Av3k.
Even that fight near LG was a scary one. Av3k was stuck underground, but Sirius didn't want to overcommit to jumping down there, and that's a count the game mode. That's a pretty nasty position to be in. Oh, good lord! Ooh. Opening damage, but is it going to be enough? Misses the rail. That would have been a kill shot there on Av3k. Getting a frag there for Sirius, and he can't escape either. And that is now going to be a 2-0. Sirius spawning with no armor to his name, thankfully able to drop down immediately on that heavy. And now it will be Sirius pushing forward just with plasma in hand. And Av3k says, all right, well, eat this super shotgun, mate. 3-0 and climbing the way things are currently going. Sirius on Mega, but there's nothing to retreat to. And Av3k just thinking, right, I mean, if you're going to sit around here, mate, I'll happily take it. Misses the first rail. Sirius, that is a scary position. Had he not missed that first shot, Av3k would have been a lot more tender, and he still survived! 2 HP left to go! Sirius has been so close to taking out Av3k so many times. Even that rocket didn't do it! And he's punished again. That has got to be soul-crushing. All series long this has been happening for poor old Sirius, and it is just going from bad to worse now. Not a frag yet, and no weapons to make damage happen. Oh, good lord.
This is just unreal. Av3k's just playing this so well. It's just the reads and the paths he's making every single time. Sirius finally gets that first frag. And do remember, folks, it's the fact that he's still got the mobility to come back in this matchup. Yeah, sure, this is a matchup we never, ever see. We never see an Athena versus Galena matchup. When we see a map at this large of a scale, this late in the series, normally most of the mobile champions have been taken. So normally we'll see like a Visor versus Galena matchup probably. But seeing an Athena versus Galena matchup is definitely not something we normally accustomed to, I think it's best to say, each and every time. But Av3k, though, still up by 5 frags. Still got just past the halfway point in this map. And he needs to start cleaning up these totems because it's just not going to pay himself dividends, of course, going into this. He needs to try and find them, clean them up, and just... But the rails Sirius is hitting 58%, but 69%. Nice from Av3k.
Oh, that's a cheeky... That is a really cheeky angle. Putting the totem there and getting the heal from the other side of the wall. But at the same time, the Galena totems have been a massive part of why Av3k has been able to play the way he has. You're going up against someone who you know hits really good at like shots and has wonderful accuracy and damage output. Oh god, speaking of which, Av3k knows a thing or two about the LG. But he's taking loads of damage, but it doesn't mean anything. He's able to still win those fights. He's able to outstack and outsustain his opponent here. This is probably the first time all map long that Sirius has been able to start a fight with Av3k, who has just spawned, and have enough stack to actually take the fight. And that's the first time it's happened. It's almost 7 minutes. Av3k has done such a wonderful job of, even if he goes down, he's not really out of control. He's not out of position. If Sirius wants to take that fight, he's going to have to do it with no stack, which opens up a chance for Av3k to just secure the frag regardless. Now here comes Sirius, rails upon rails. Now the damage could start to add up in theory. Av3k hasn't been able to get himself a full set of weaponry just yet. Is Sirius going to be able to take that one to the bank? Gets another frag here. Weak as anything. But now Av3k finally able to secure himself a rail, something he hasn't had the last couple of spawns. And with, oh god, you can't see it, but Av3k, he is fortified. He has stack, he has totems, he's got the armor, and Sirius, I don't know, he's got to pick something up. Is there even anything to collect, I wonder?
Oh, he does find those 2 totems though, Ryan. It's going to be massive, but trying to find those totems is like trying to play hide and seek in like probably the biggest supermarket possible. It wasn't easy for him, but he managed to find it in the end. It's heavy. He's up in the next couple of seconds. As you can see, Av3k is in position, just trying to find out and analyze the situation. Still hasn't picked up. Probably thinks that he's able to pick up that heavy without Sirius knowing the timing. And we've still got just over 2 minutes left in play with 2 frags still looking to close the gap on in terms of that deficit. Mega has been picked up from Av3k though, and Sirius just needs to bide his time. Chip is going to be the game plan here for Sirius at the moment. And of course, the starting stack, if he does take down Av3k after this, needs to keep in mind as well. And of course, weapon denial is going to be another thing to continue to add here. But good LG to rail combo straight away to try and even the stacks. But the problem is he needs to let him take this heavy. You saw Av3k there, saw a quick glimpse of Sirius and just backed away straight away to reposition himself for this heavy. Kind of felt like Sirius may have had to go for it, but he's still got a bit of time. Remember, it does have a minute 30, and it's got all the mobility in the world in comparison to what Av3k has, but still needs to keep these totems in check. It's a big must.
It's going to be a problem for Sirius very, very soon, however. A lot of this damage hasn't meant a huge amount just yet. That rail missing its mark, that's the green light for Av3k to push forward and take that frag. They're heavy as a reward, and with that has just made things catastrophically more difficult for Sirius. He's been able to pick up the Mega, but there's no armor. And with no armor, Av3k is going to stick to that LG like glue and take himself yet another frag here. The second he was able to slow down, and the second he was able to pick up those items, got himself about 2 heavies, and Sirius tried to make his presence known on them, but couldn't get any damage on the board, so Av3k didn't have to care about that. And it will not be enough now. The totem comes through! Oh god! The totem kept him alive. Sirius had understandably swapped to a different weapon to get the last little speck of damage that he needed. But that was enough for Av3k to pull out the rail and tank for a microsecond and get himself a victory here, with Av3k a dominating fashion throughout the course of this series and just playing around the accuracy and the damage masterfully, while of course being able to add to it himself. What a display from Av3k, and I think one of his more impressive weeks that we've seen so far.
Yeah, he telegraphed the entire series extremely well. Didn't really change how he played too much. He played quite similar in terms of his adaptation throughout every map in the series. 70% hit percentage. Didn't fire as much, of course, compared to Sirius, but Sirius had a 59%. But even though he fired 17 shots, at 70% against an Athena, that's huge. That's massive.
Yeah, unless it's the absolute opening minute of a map, I think 70% is still very much 70%, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you just look at Av3k's ability to heal, how much he was able to nullify. It played a huge part throughout the sort of middle point of that map. We were looking at Sirius, and Sirius is hitting rail after rail after rail after rail, and yet still somehow Av3k lives to fight another day. And in opportunities where fights break out, they're fights that Av3k was more than happy to take, kind of win or lose, yeah? If you get the frag, that's wonderful. If not, still understanding that this item is going to be up, or I've done this much damage, so I'm still going to be okay. And okay, he certainly was. 11-5 being the final count here, and overall a wonderful showing of just how Av3k is shaping up. Now, it's unfortunate Sirius wasn't able to get a map here. I think that, we've seen Sirius look so incredibly strong over the course of this Pro League so far. Yes, there's plenty of matches left to go, and one result is not going to be the be-all, end-all, but Av3k just looked like the more seasoned player in this series, and I think that one's very apparent.
Yeah, can't complain at all. 49 frags in total for Av3k there. And he played it extremely well. I wasn't expecting these scorelines. I'm sure Av3k knew that it was going to be a very dicey series, not something I don't think many people could have predicted. I think a lot of people may have even said a serious 2-1, but I think the main factor was the fact that we knew that this was probably going to go all the way. But the fact that Av3k could have ended it in 2, and he performed that consistently across the board, he adapted extremely well. I think one of the main factors was that he didn't play to any, or very rarely to many, of Sirius's advantages to abuse that aim skill which he has. But don't get me wrong, Sirius over the course of time this season has been performing extremely well in the department of his strategic values and his own adaptation, and how he forces his opponents to play at a certain tempo, his slow tempo, so to speak. But for Av3k to do that, he played extremely well across the board, and I think a lot of players will probably be watching that series back if they do face up against Sirius to see what needs to be done in order to try and capitalize on those situations.
Well, our next 2 players are getting ready and lined up and play as our 3rd series is lying in the wait. We're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, Series 3 of Week 7 is going to go underway. So, as always, we'll see you in a few minutes' time.